welcome to episode 542 of the HaskinCast Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I have a wonderful group of people here. Not enough to be a murderer, quite happily, but enough to be probably a gaggle. I'm going to go with that. But before I introduce our guest today, I do want to let you guys know that this coming weekend, both Friday and Saturday, we have bonus episodes of the show coming. 2 episodes that I taped with my good friend Mark Roback from the 70s Weekly Countdown with Mark and Pete. A little bit of Christmas theme for you going back a couple of decades. I think you guys will enjoy it. And then Sunday night going into Monday, check out the Deep Purple podcast where I was a guest for our annual Christmas episode. And then we'll have our normal episode on Wednesday and then another bonus episode on Christmas. So lots of podcasts coming your way. And I hope you guys enjoyed them. In the meantime, I want to welcome back 2 of the folks that were here last time from Spring Paranormal Investigations from episode 500, Amy Lee. Amy, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you. It's great to see you back again. Welcoming also Todd. Todd, how's it going?
Doing great.
Nice. And we welcome Braden. Braden, before you say anything, I got to say, that is a badass name.
Actually,
I love that.
It's Raiden.
It's Raiden. Like Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
You're good.
Yes. I talked to so many people named Braden. I'm so sorry. Every show you guys come on, I have to screw up a name at least once. So now we've got that out of the way.
I've dealt with it all my life. I've been called Caden, Braden, every name under the sun.
I won't tell you some of the things I've been called over the years. But it's great to have you on the show. Also, we have Jason. Jason, how's it going?
Doing good. Great to be here.
Thank you very much for coming. And last but not least, Chris, the music man of the show, who's got a couple of songs out on the YouTube channel that we're going to talk a little bit about. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Great, thank you. It's nice to have you all here. I appreciate you guys taking a night off when you could be out scaring off a demon or two. You guys have had a pretty intense time since your YouTube channel aired. How's the reception been? How's it been going?
It's been okay. It could have been better. Mm-hmm. We had a whole plan for season 1, and as most people know, we had some personnel changes shortly before we started the YouTube page. So there were a lot of things we were going to do for season 1 that we decided not to do because we didn't feel comfortable featuring past members and that kind of thing when they weren't on the team without proper permissions. Mm-hmm. So we just decided to kind of improvise season 1. So Chris did a fantastic job with all of the editing and the music. And I mean, that was all new completely to all of us. Mm-hmm. So he did an amazing job. But, it was something we had to kind of throw together, and we were under a deadline and we had to scrap everything we had and just kind of wing it. So we're now filming for season 2. And that's going to be a lot more of what we really intended it to be. A lot more investigations and a lot more featuring of everybody who is on the team. Mm-hmm. Season 1 kind of ended up being the Amy Todd show. And that was not planned. Just Jason was still on leave at the time. He wasn't back yet. And we were really under the gun to get things out quickly. And Ray was working a lot. So it was kind of a thrown together deal, but this next one, stick with us because season 2 is going to be awesome.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And those things do happen, unfortunately, when you're like me and you do most things by yourself and then you add one person to the mix. A lot of times just even trying to schedule that one person can be a challenge. There's 5 of you, and then you've got a couple people that kind of transitioned out, and it is really hard to be able to just stay on a schedule. And that becomes such an important thing, to have that consistency, because people will make you a part of their routine. They're like, okay, episodes air on, let's say Friday afternoon, I got to tune in, or I'm going to watch it Saturday morning, or whatever it becomes. I'll listen while I'm walking the dog. I'll watch them while I'm eating dinner, whatever it becomes. So it is tough to meet those deadlines and give that kind of consistent output that you really want to. But I think you guys pulled off a great first season. It gave us an idea of what we're looking at. And I'm really looking forward to season 2. Do you have a plan for starting that air-wise?
It's probably going to be fall again. I don't want to commit to a date just yet because this time we're looking to get all the filming done, get all of the editing done, and have them all basically waiting in the can. So we're not under the gun with those deadlines. And that was something Chris asked for that he definitely deserves. So we're going to do everything we can to give him that and make this easier.
Yeah, editing under pressure is not exactly fun.
Yeah, it really isn't. And I have to say, for learning all this and throwing together what you did, I think you did a damn good job. Chris, what was it? Did you feel like, are you happy with what you were able to do?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just, me and Amy talked about it. It's like, well, I guess we'll have to find somebody to do our editing. And then I'm like, well, I'll give it a try. So I just started messing with it and started having fun with it. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, well, here. And I've made some stuff and I showed her and showed some of the team. And they're like, yeah. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm learning. I'm teaching myself. I'm learning as I'm going. And, I've been in music since I was 7 years old. And by the time I was 9, I was, playing drums. And I just recently started messing with the keyboard and the piano and the guitar and
He's
and
a one-man band.
So, but I don't know any chords. I'm just like, okay, well that sounds good. And I have fun doing it, and that way I'm involved with, SPI and so.
He's a bigger part than he gives himself credit for. He's the behind the scenes all the way around.
Well, the end result was excellent.
Any phrase that starts out with "we need somebody to" ends up being Chris.
Kind of, yeah, that's fairly accurate.
Yeah.
And a non-investigation standpoint, that is entirely correct.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can say the editing was really smooth. The transitions were nice. It looked really good. The footage was shot nice and clean. The sound quality was great. I mean, you have an eye for it for sure. I'm also a drummer as well. I know that you've been playing drums for quite a while. And
oh yeah.
The thing about music is that it doesn't matter what you know from a technical perspective as much as it is if it just pleases your ear. That's all that matters.
Well, I feel because sometimes, the room that we're in right now is actually where I do everything behind our deal here. But sometimes I'll come in here and if I'm feeling it, I'll be in here for hours. Sometimes I'll come in here, I'll play I'm like, I just think I ain't feeling it. So I'm like, okay, just pack it up. Yeah. I don't feel pressure. It's just, it's really great, because I have a side band as well, which I do as well. And I've been playing in bands since I was 14. So.
I think when you get to that point where you're like, oh, the sun's up, probably.
Oh yeah, if I could, I would. If I had a soundproof room, I would play. Or if I wasn't sleeping and working and eating, then I'd be playing.
It works out well because, of course, Chris and I are married, and I am obsessed with the investigation part of it and the clients and all of that, and he is obsessed with the technical side of it. So, we can just both disappear for hours into our own worlds with that, and it works out well.
Yeah, it works good. So.
Well, actually, that brings up an interesting question because I was just thinking that your work doesn't really slow down. There's not like a busy season and a non-busy season, but is there something kind of around the holidays where maybe things manifest or people manifest things a little more?
I wouldn't say that. It actually, the holidays are slower. When we get to, I would say December through like mid-March is our slow season. Then in March, it starts to build back up and it's a steady build all the way to October is just pandemonium. And then November and the first part of December are usually finishing out everything from there. And then we go back into the slow season. So this is actually our slow season right now. We're in it. But it never stops. It just slows down a little bit for a few months.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's you have the holidays, so nobody's focusing on that. They all have gifts to buy, things like that, so everybody's kind of flying around. But then you have those early winter months where everybody's in the house and they're like, "Oh, I just noticed something happening." So by the time the cold breaks, start of spring and summer, they're just like on the phone with us.
Yeah.
So.
See, I was thinking more along the lines of that emotional connection to maybe loved ones that can't spend the holidays with them that year, and that might bring out a little something, or they might start going, "Oh, that must be grandma," and then when things get out of control, they're like, "We better call somebody." Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I don't know that it correlates to holidays, but a lot of people do think it's a relative when they call us. So, I mean, almost every time it's, well, so-and-so died or so-and-so died, so maybe it's these people. And the truth is, it rarely is in our experience.
Yeah.
Well, it would seem like they wouldn't want to call you then if they think grandma's, visiting. They wouldn't want you to come and get rid of her.
Well, bad things will start, and that's one of the things we have to point out. It's like, okay, your grandma loved you and made you cookies. Would she be, throwing your things across the room? And then it's like, oh, well, maybe not, but I get it. I mean, we all talked about it. It's comforting to think it's a family member versus what is in my house. That unknown is always scarier.
Well, and I think people these days tend to not want to deal with anything that might cause even the slightest amount of stress. We seem to just be like, if it's bad, we can't talk about it, we avoid it, and let's just pretend it's not real.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned the throwing things around, that actually brings me to a question that I don't normally write questions down. I usually just have, very open flowing conversations. But after our last conversation, I was thinking about something that we talked about, and I said, wouldn't it be nice if there was a way that we could have conversations back and forth and understand what they're saying in the moment? And I talked about maybe they could type on a keyboard or things like that. And we talked about the physical difficulties of that. So I came up with an idea I want to run by you.
Okay.
And this is based on a horrible marketing ploy I saw from whoever is control of the rights of Jaws, where they came up with a Jaws Zen garden. And that makes no sense whatsoever. But it got me thinking about, what about the possibility of something like that, something like sand, or something that wouldn't take much effort. If they can throw dishes across a room, could they maybe use sand or something like that to write in?
Possibly.
It's possible. I mean, the thing with most of the spirits we run into, they all have various preferred methods of communication or things that can be perceived as easier. Sometimes it's all visual and we'll catch it on camera. Sometimes it's all straight electrical. Sometimes they will physically manipulate objects. It all kind of depends. So, I mean, I think that would be a great tool to add to the arsenal in obviously a very controlled environment. But I mean, it's possible.
It's interesting. It has to be a trial period for them, I suppose, once they are out of their physical body, to just learn how to manipulate things. And it's like probably like learning all over again, and maybe a little scary for them too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of them are far better at manipulating things than others. And, there's a definite difference in all of them. Inhumans obviously tend to have a much easier time.
Sure.
If they choose to communicate. They're more finicky about wanting to talk to us, unfortunately. But
Right. Yeah. So, Jason, now that you're back, what's your role in the group going to be?
I think I'm really only here for comic relief. General rule, they told me to shut up and not talk. Don't embarrass them tonight. So we'll
He's been a comedian since day one.
I couldn't tell.
We all kind of fill every role. I mean, we're all busy debunking. We're all busy collecting evidence and communicating with the spirits individually and so forth. So it's a joint team, just adding more power to the team, I guess.
But I would imagine it takes a special resolve to be able to put yourself in the position of going into, first of all, I mean, just going into someone's home when they're not there and kind of taking control of it. It's a little bit weird as it is, but doing the particular work that you do, because as we talked about last time, you're not a ghost hunting group. You're not, let's see if we can get footage. Let's, you're very specific and you deal with very difficult cases. I would imagine it takes a real resolve every time you walk into a house.
It does. And even when we're not in houses, that's the thing is, the stuff that we deal with on the regular in our lives that follows us from this and impacts us from this. And that's part of why, I know you follow us closely. I don't know which of your followers do, but obviously we've been trying out new people. We've had several and none of them have made the cut yet. And that has a lot to do with it. This is not for everyone. This is a very select group of people, and it takes a real resolve and a real calling, and that it is very, very intense.
Every place that we go into, we're all perfectly in the knowledge that anything could happen. There isn't
anything has happened.
Anything has happened. Yeah, there isn't one person on the team that hasn't been severely negative affected at some point, so we're definitely careful.
Chris is really the only one in the room, knock on wood, that they have not tried to actually physically kill in some way.
The ladder.
Yeah, that was mean.
That was the hurt.
That was to hurt him. Yeah,
it wouldn't have killed him, but still, it would have hurt him.
Yeah, the one tried to push a ladder over on him, but that's more low level. We're talking.
That's more low level.
We're talking hospitalizations here and stuff. So
Talking about blood, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of cases where that it really does, like people get scratches that they bleed pretty severely from and get, I think one person had a cord wrapped around their neck. And again, like you hear these stories and you have to question the sources. I'm not talking about you guys, obviously, but when you hear stories on the internet or on specials or you read about them, you always have to kind of take things with a grain of salt. But there certainly have been enough documented cases of violent activity that I really admire you guys for putting yourselves in that position willingly. I'm assuming you're all going in willingly.
Yeah, definitely. Chris doesn't usually go in the field with us. He occasionally will tag along and film us because that's not his thing. Right. But the rest of us,
Well, Amy's holding my passport hostage. I can't have it back till I've completed 10 years.
Yeah, it's probably wise at this point because you just never know. I find it.
He's an illegal ghost hunter.
I find the psychology of you guys, I think, almost as equally fascinating as what you're dealing with, because just that willingness to put yourself in harm's way to protect people, and that really says a lot. I think that is a lot of the issue of why it's hard to find people, because I think the idea of it probably sounds a lot more exciting than the reality of it, or just the shock.
It can be. Yeah. The way I like to break it down is it's like you'll have 97% of just it is not as exciting as it seems, but then that last 3% when it does kick off is usually worse.
Right.
Not even in the way it's perceived so much as in the horror movies. You have all of the music and the ambiance and the visuals, so much as just the level of intensity, and sometimes dealing with these clients who are going through something emotional, that intensity can vary drastically. And being the team that we are, trying to constantly be that helping aid to our clients, it's one of those things where that can almost be more intense than the actual spiritual side of things at times.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I mean, you're also dealing with the emotion of the client and trying to comfort them. Of course, they're not there when you're in the house, which is, I'm sure, for the best. You don't need that to deal with that in the moment.
Yeah, no way.
But we talked last time about how you work with them as well, but what's the follow-up? Like, let's say that you go in this weekend and you clear out someone's house. Like, how long do they usually stay in touch? Do you kind of counsel them, monitor them as an afterthought or after the fact?
It does depend a little bit on the case. Usually the clearing is kind of a bittersweet deal because they've kind of come to depend on us, and there's definitely a bond, especially between me and the client, because they call me all the time and message me all the time, and it's like, oh, okay, it's over now, what do I do? But most of the time they're hugging us, they're thanking us, and it's like, I love you guys, and I hope I never have to call you again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. We get that. That's okay. So I give them their space. Once it's done, sometimes we never hear from them again. Sometimes they'll, start following us on Facebook, and these guys are the greatest, and they keep up with us. Others will try to, kind of have a smaller friendship with me on the side of just checking in every now and then. But it really depends on the severity. The ones that we have that are like possession cases and all, of course, those are rare. But those people tend to stick closer and stay in touch with me over time and things like that. And that's, understandable.
Sure. And it's kind of such a weird relationship to have with somebody anyway. It's like you could potentially have been friends if you'd met under other circumstances, but I'm sure it takes a lot for the clients to call you in the first place, to just admit what might be happening in their house. And to get to that point, they have to have hit a certain level, I would imagine. You're not the first phone call they're going to make when they hear noises in the house.
Right. Yeah, usually it's been checked for animals and plumbing and, various things. So, yeah. And of course, in our case, I think we talked about this on the first episode, but a lot of our cases are verified before we ever go in. There have been other teams, there have been other clergy, and others that have been unsuccessful. And then it's like, okay, we don't know what else to do. Then they get us.
Yeah.
So, usually we're often going in when it's been verified multiple times over before we ever get there.
And oftentimes as well, we'll go in after a primary method, like she had said, had failed, like a primary attempt. We've had numerous cases where we've come and had to play cleanup on top of the cleanup.
Oh, yeah.
Where somebody came in, didn't understand exactly what they were dealing with, and caused more things, and then we're dealing with compounding issues.
Or potentially pissing them off and giving you guys a bigger hill to climb.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
Like good example, we had a case 2 years ago. This guy, he called in some people. They were voodoo practitioners. Now he knows nothing about voodoo, knew very little about the spiritual.
Neither did they.
Thought he was doing the right thing. Yeah, they thought they knew what they were doing. They had no clue what they were. Well, they had some clue, enough to be dangerous.
They had the right materials, but did things the wrong way. Like, they were trying to push all the spirits out of the home. They did it in a way that pulled them all in and kept them in.
So they basically locked them into the house.
Great.
So, he's like, it went from little noises to, he's like, now it sounds like they're in the house and like they're banging on the walls trying to get out or something. And then we figured out what was going on, and Ray's like, well, they are banging on the walls trying to get out.
To leave.
He's locked them in the house. Like, the guy's going, what do I do?
Oh, man. So,
the lesson in that is don't dabble in what you don't know.
Well, I guess from a certain perspective, if you're calling somebody that you think or says they can help, and, from the client's perspective, they probably did the right thing. It's just they happened to call the wrong number, and those people then are obviously a little ill-equipped. But what is the reality of after the fact? Like, let's say, again, you go in this weekend, you clean out a couple of demons from a house, and I don't say that casually. It sounds like I am, but I don't mean it that way.
Right.
What is the reality of them returning?
Usually, typically, I will say that those entities are not going to return. a lot of times, especially in the immediate after effect, there is a light, airy period where it's like the next day you wake up and you notice the immediate difference of, okay, this space is no longer heavy, it's no longer energetic in that way. So there's always an adjustment period for the clients, especially those that have been under oppression or been dealing with whatever for an extended duration of time. So there's always a little bit of counseling and adjustment that comes along with that on her end, which she does a great job of. And then oftentimes, especially you referenced demonics, when there are negative or lower lying areas in that kind of spiritual plane, I guess, you do tend to have large groupings of like spirits try to kind of come together, just like people. So a lot of times we'll have to do added work or added blessings to kind of reinforce what we did in the clearings in order to go ahead and, make sure that space stays as ghost free as possible. Yeah. We have had instances where on extremely active land or spaces that maybe they live near a past cemetery, or it just happens to be an incredibly active space where we have had to go back. But very rarely have we actually had to go back to deal with the same spirit like ever. I don't even think ever really.
Yeah.
Wow.
We don't like to lose. We have a kind of we don't accept failure. Failure is not an option. So yeah. When we go in the first time to do it, we intend to fully do it no matter what.
And we do a bunch of remote work and research on the back end as far as making sure that all the pieces are accounted for and collected. We've often sat in front of a whiteboard or in a room just discussing and writing stuff out and sitting thinking of how we're going to approach certain situations for countless hours. So it's one of those things that by the time we get you to that final point, especially because investigations are staggered, obviously, because like you said earlier, people and scheduling, oof. It's one of those things that we have so much time in between to actually really work on it and help these clients that by the time we get to that final stage, we've got everything locked and stocked.
And of course, myself, Jason, Todd, we're all clergy members. Right. And everyone here, except for Chris, who isn't usually in the field, we are all extensively trained in meditation techniques and different religious techniques, Taoist, Buddhist. I was trained by a Bible church pastor in deliverance exorcism. So it's not just ghost hunting and investigative training or field experience, but we have all worked to bring ourselves up on another spiritual level. So we're much more adept to handle things.
And it's one of those things too. We're also a lot of clients, and I think one of the things that actually endears them to us in that regard as well is a lot of the major ghost hunting, or I say ghost hunting, I'm using that, paranormal investigators, right, that do clear. A lot of them are very monotheistic, or they'll turn to the church and then, they don't fit this specific criteria, so we're not going to help you. Like she had said, we're fairly well versed in a lot of different practices, including like Norse paganism, things like, as far as even things that are really far out into the weeds by most people's standards. We've had some experience, or at least have a basic understanding of what we're doing when it comes to that and how to approach that. And then as a group, we do actually, at the end, we'd have a couple of folks that we work with to help on the back end, some of them being so-called healers or meditation specialists, Taoist priests, things like that, to actually help facilitate further development on the back end. Because sometimes these clients do need more help than we can actually provide. Wow. So we always try to set them up with the support structure that they need on the back end.
I can't imagine how bad things must be with your experience that you're not able to help them. I mean, that's got to be pretty severe. Because if I'm not mistaken, you guys told a story about a place you went into. Was it 42 demons? Am I remembering that right?
I remember 42 specifically.
Oh, I think you're probably talking about the San Antonio case.
That might be.
There were multiple demons.
That was innumerable, right. Because in that instance, that was during an exorcism. There were, in the actual space itself, there were only actually 2.
Right.
By the time though that we actually got through the exorcism, they tried to basically play like a Rolodex of them just coming through, just trying one after another, after another, after another. And that, honestly, to be fair, I lost count of how many different ones we dealt with just over the course of that, 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours, 6.5 hours that we were engaged in that. But usually, to kind of take it back just a second, we always try to help the clients, and it's one of those things of, like she said, we don't like to lose. 95 even 100% of the time, we are successful when it comes to when it comes to actually clearing the spirits or helping like things like that. The only reason we'll actually kind of do like a farm out with somebody else is if their issue is more of a personal attachment, or if there is some kind of underlying mental or medical issue, where we'll help refer them to somebody else and give them that extra support that maybe we can't provide.
Yeah. It's been our experience that attachments can be better handled in a different way than via investigation by a team. We're more set up to investigate structures and land. It's very hard to do that scientifically with a person. So yeah, like he said, we have certain priests and stuff that we work with that will send those people to, who can use Reiki and meditation techniques and different things like that to delve out that attachment and work through that in a better way than we could from our standpoint.
It's would be really time intensive to basically reprogram a person from what they have grown to see as their normal.
Right.
And to put that, Amy could do it. But to add that to her plate, it's a lot easier to pass them on along. So we can keep focused on actual investigations.
Right.
That, and to be fair, it's one of those things where everybody develops at their own pace. If they're not comfortable with certain things, we're on a time schedule. We have more clients cropping up day by day by day. We need to be place to place. And we all only have so much time, so we don't want to force anybody's development. We want them to be able to do that at their own pace. So being able to have that more removed aspect is very, very helpful for us.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so let me ask you guys about this, because I know that Jason Hawes has been working very hard to save the Conjuring House from getting into hands of people that might not handle that well. So it kind of leads me to the question about the difference between an attachment to a person, an attachment to a building or a location, say, a Civil War battlefield, or, you always hear these stories about these haunted bridges and things like that. What is this strategy? Is there a strategic difference of how you handle it? Or is it really just kind of the same, you got to go in and kick them out type strategy?
Yes and no.
It's very different.
I would say there's similar aspects. Generally speaking, when someone has an attachment, it is either born of they encountered it in a space and then it latched on to them, or it's something from perhaps past encounters, past relationships, things like that. So there is, just like in a space, they may have a past attachment to the space. The attachment to the space or to the person, that part is not necessarily all that different, but the manner in which we handle it is very different, because when it comes to a person, there's a lot more interfacing there. There's a lot more convolution. We have to separate out the personal versus we're dealing with emotions at that point of, okay, we're trying to figure out, you say this is affecting you in this way. Okay, how much of this is
physical health, mental health?
Yeah. Whereas in a space, it's a lot more cut and dry. We're able to just kind of go in and analytically assess what's going on in the space, and then from there apply our knowledge and our skills to that, without kind of having to go filter through someone else first, right?
That makes sense. Yeah. Do you find that? And this is a weird thing that popped into my head. I mean, Todd, you and Amy Lee know how my brain works at this point, but do you guys find that there is a gender identity with ghosts? Like whatever their last life was, they're most likely to be as they've continued on afterwards, or maybe they've latched onto something previous? Or can you even tell?
Usually they identify as male or female, usually from the previous life. There are some inhumans though that are not human, but kind of present as male or female, which is always interesting to me because they're not human, but there's still a distinction there. You know, we've had a few too. You know, most spirits that we encounter are much older. But you know, here and there we will get someone that's current. And like a few years ago, that was actually turned out to be a very funny session because of an EVP we got. But Jason, he knows where I'm going, and one of our former investigators, who was my niece, that used to be on the team, were in a room, and they had a spirit who was a cross-dresser. He was a male, but when they saw him, there was some confusion about, is this a man or is this a woman? Because he was still cross-dressing, I guess, so to say, in spirit form, if that makes sense. Okay. So there was some confusion, and he had some uncomfortableness about that probably in life, and he still retained that in death. So, you know, they kind of got him out of his shell in a weird way. But, you know, he did end up actually talking to them, and we had an EVP from him, and then he ended up interacting with them. So,
wow, that's
you know, my niece did something kind of funny. We won't go into the details, but Jason was picking on her, and he basically said, well, we're going to have to start calling you Bubba. And then there's a lapse for a minute, and then you hear the spirit, not Jason's voice, but very clearly male, go, ha, 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 Bubba.
Wow.
So, you know, it's stuck.
That's pretty.
And we've also had entities where, like you said, identity plays a big part in it, not just on the gender side as well, but the way that they perceive themselves. We've had a few entities in the past that perceived themselves to be a monster, or perceived based on things that they did in life, and it almost affected their physical appearance in the afterlife. We've had spirits that had mental issues or disabilities in life, and they kind of carried over as well. But then we've also had that kind of almost be funnier, where some spirits want to be scary, so they kind of shift their appearance. There's an instance looking back where there was a male spirit in a garage who he was trying to scare the clients, and our medium at the time had seen him jump from around a car dressed like a very cartoonish Dracula and just go rah, and then we're all just like, what?
And the funny part about it is it probably would have scared most people.
Right.
It would have. But with the stuff that we see, I mean, we all just kind of stopped and went, seriously? It was comical to us. It was like, no.
We're going to war with Count Chocula.
Count Chocula.
Well, he does make a delicious cereal. Let's give him that.
Exactly.
I think the other thing too that I'm finding fascinating is that we're not dealing with a physical body, but yet it is an intelligent entity. It has the ability to think and act and make decisions. Oh, yeah. So it makes me wonder what part of our brain is actually being used versus it's just the space that part of our body occupies, and it's really the energy that actually controls everything.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is, well, a lot of your nerves essentially are firing energy across your body. That's a good way of interpreting, I guess, the energetic connection to the physical. There is a lot of times where, yes, it's a very, very abstract thing and there is no physical form. Other times, I think every member of this group can attest to the point where they've been touched and it felt like a physical hand just touched you. Yeah. Or you've been moved across a room or something like that.
Or scratched.
Yep. So it is, you are correct. It is very, very, very odd how sometimes it interfaces in very different manners across the board. But I think a lot of that, like you said, it's just energy. If a magnet can pull something across the table, there you go, invisible force that's maneuvering something, right? It's just a different variation of that.
That's very well put. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think about when you mentioned the nerve system, I think about when I went to the bodies exhibit when I lived in Vegas and looking at our actual nerves. It's insane. I mean, it's just insane how tiny they are, but yet how much of our body they take up, how they're laid out. Just watch out for what they sell in the gift shop. But it was a pretty amazing experience just to see what's really inside of us, but to think about being able to do a lot of the things that we can do without a body, that kind of fascinates me a little bit. I don't want to,
for sure.
I'm not in a rush to find out how that side of it works, but it still makes me a little bit curious. Todd, what do you think about all this at this point? You've seen a lot of things and, you've had a lot of experiences. Have you, from where you were when you started, have you really changed it the way that you look at life?
I'd say that's kind of a yes and no question. I mean, I already knew things like that went on, being actually a former client on the team.
Right.
So I've been through this on the other side as well. But since I've been here, that's where the yes part comes in, because I've seen things and been through things I had no idea I would experience. I mean, I'm at the point now okay.
Oh, don't lie. There are still moments when you're like,
oh, yeah, those are like, what's that? There are those.
Well, I mean,
it's really.
Go ahead.
It's really, I think the inhuman factor and all, that's like when we present stuff to clients, that's the part that's harder for people to swallow, if you will. Saying you have a male or a female spirit. Okay.
Which to slightly pause, because he wanted to joke earlier, is where Jason's specialty comes in and always has. When it comes to being able to connect with the clients on that emotional level and provide not just obviously Amy being the, figurehead of the group and being that initial point of contact, but he's always been really good at being that rock solid foundation that humanizes it. He is very much he humanizes the group and allows us to kind of, with all the serious stuff, kind of come down off of that and be like, yeah, we're in a house dealing with a 4,000-year-old entity that's trying to murder everybody, and we're all caught up in the head. And Jason's just like, let's actually be people about this and have a heart for a second. And it's just, it reminds us and keeps us grounded.
I'll give you that $20 later.
Yeah, he definitely, we missed him severely when he was gone, and everyone on this team will second that.
I think everybody was kind of pulling their hair a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Jason and I have always said, it's kind of like the joke in I don't know if I can say the Ghostbusters movie. If not, you can edit this.
Oh yeah.
But there's a scene where Peter Venkman says, Ray Stantz, the heart of the Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. Jason Weiser is the heart of SPI. Because he makes all of us better people when he's around. We perform better as a group when he is around. There's no two ways about it. There's no question about it. And, some people have, when they've gotten to know us or done these interviews, they're like, y'all have a lot of levity and y'all joke around a lot for a team that's handling such serious things, but you have to. If you don't, in the midst of all that intensity, you can lose it, become too focused and too intense. And it's extremely important for the clients. When I do the reveals, which is when I play back the evidence we've obtained from our investigations, and he's around, and him and this one are cutting up, and there's all these jokes flying. Todd and I have both, because Todd's probably done more of them with me than anybody now. But we have both seen these people go from sitting there looking so concerned about, oh my God, what is in my house, to these two will say something and now they're in stitches at the table just laughing. And it's like, it eases everything. It brings it down to okay, if they can joke and they can do this, maybe I'm going to be okay.
They're also, to be fair with that, there is almost, and I love to laugh about this, there is a certain weaponization to that as well, which you might be like, huh? But a lot of these really negative entities, they feed off of that negativity. They love to just feed off of it. And it's one of those things of the more in your head that they can keep you, and the serious and the more dark and the grunt. And there are often times where he and I will be in a session. In the past, we've done this a lot, where we're dealing with a very, very, very negative entity, very powerful, and we'll just be like, okay, you're not talking to us? And we'll just start belting out Whitney Houston. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you're not going to give us what we want, we're just going to have a good time with it. And then it's that thing of, you're a demon getting bested by these two idiots? Like, what? Like, huh? Like, and it almost, in a way, in our minds, I think, across as the group, and especially with the clients, when they see that, it's like, you just took away all of its power by just being happy.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things of, it's a sobering reminder that the way you interface with these things has an incredible impact, and reminds the clients that, hey, this is not a end-all be-all situation. You can still recover from this, and you can still, by your own energy, without us, have an impact.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's different but similar, like when we do exorcisms too, because in exorcisms even more so, they are totally trying to feed off fear. They're trying to intimidate you. Jason and I have done every exorcism that has come about for this team together. Some of the others were part of some of them, but not part of all of them. Chris, of course, has abstained from that part. He's the smart one, I guess.
Hey, man. I've sassed a demon or two in my time.
But Jason and I have done them all. And we kind of have it somewhat down now to a very, very sarcastic rapport. I remember the second to last one that we did, the lady was possessed, and they had her in refusal to open her eyes. She just would not. And the demon kept basically threatening us, well, I'm coming, I'm going to do this, I'm going to interact. And so Jason's like, okay, well, you know, whenever you're ready. And, you know, he's going back and forth. And I was like, well, fine, then. I had some chips or some crackers or something. And I remember I got this little bag and I sat down right next to her. She's late. I mean, she could have snapped up at any minute, and I'm fully conscious of it, but I'm acting like I don't care. And I'm sitting there eating chips. Like, are we going to do this? Kind of hungry. I'd rather go eat something else, you know. And then later, of course, people are always like, oh my God, how did you do that? And it's fake it till you make it. There's a lot of bravado in it.
Yeah.
But
there's also a lot of technicality too, because to kind of take away from that, because with where we are, it could seem like, okay, these guys are just cutting up and just somehow wandering into it. When it comes to especially exorcisms, or especially dealing with those demonic entities, you almost have to be a lawyer in the way you think about verbiage and things, because any little slightly perceived thing could be perceived as an invitation, could be perceived as a threat. All of these things, you have to be consciously thinking about what you're saying, how you're saying it, the intention behind it, and all of these things. So we're over here playing a tiptoe dance between acting like a clown, providing that levity, providing that emotional support from a serious standpoint as well, and then also being strong enough and having the mental fortitude to combat them on their own level. And it is a very, very delicate dance that there's one of my mentors from the past has always said that all of these things are like a stool with 3 legs. If you don't have all the pieces, it's going to fall out from under you. So you have to be very, very mindful. And that's something that all of us have had to struggle with or learn in the past.
And pulling into a case, like Amy said, with the false bravado and keeping the levity in the atmosphere. But yeah, you've always got to be on your toes that anything could change in just a split second. And so we may look like we're having fun and all, and that's it, but that thought's always right there at the top of our mind that anything could happen.
Well, and it seems like it's a balance between temptation and just getting on the edge of inviting them without actually inviting them, like just trying to get them to do something. But if the demon's like, one more step and I'm warning you, I'm gonna do it, and you know, you kind of, I would imagine, feel like you're in a position of power if it's, because if it wants to take the action, it's gonna do it unless it's afraid to, right?
So that's the most careful dance of all.
Don't have pride with it.
If you ever stop, like during an exorcism, if we ever stop and any one of us were to think, man, I am the shit, I can, you know, put this guy down. No, you can't. It is not from you. It's never from you. It's all him. 100% him. You're being a vessel and he's acting through you. If you ever forget that, you are in deep
demons
trouble.
feed off of ego and being able to trap yourself in it, even if it's a positive thing. I love the phrase, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, because it is very true. When you get caught up in your ego, it's one of those things that if it's in a positive way, you are very much conscious of yourself and how things are impacting you, and that leads towards more instances of, I don't know, maybe feeling like slighted or something like that. One of these things where it starts to bring you towards that more negative place, whether you're realizing it or not. And that's something that they like to twist and pervert and bring into that realm. So it's very much one of those things of, while yes, we are combating them in that way, you do have to be very mindful of your intention behind it and the way that you are, I guess, interacting with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just have a couple more questions for you guys, if you don't mind. And I want to remind everybody too, I've got all the links in the show notes to all your socials, to your YouTube channel, to the website. They have, they're very easy to get in contact with if you are experiencing something, I would say, in the general Texas area. Would that be fair? I know you travel a little outside, but you're
really all over. We'll go all over the U.S. We only charge a travel fee. We don't charge for the services. So if we're to say go out of state or something like that, or even, you know, Texas is huge, you know, right. It's a long distance, which I say basically anything 3 hours or more, we consider as long distance. Sure. So in those cases, you know, if it's in Texas, we'll drive it, but they may have to pay for a hotel. You know, same with Louisiana, Arkansas, that kind of thing. If we're going to, say, Minnesota or something, then obviously there's plane tickets and hotel fares. So that cost varies, of course, in relation to where they are to us and how accessible that is.
But we have consulted as far out as Romania.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I do consults internationally.
I would imagine to do what you do in a place like England, which has like such a long history and of a lot of unpleasantness and a lot of bad decisions and torture and things like that. I would imagine that would be a very interesting place to even just consult with, let alone actually go and visit any of those places.
Well, yes, here's one thing where I tend to very much defer from regular paranormal investigators on. I'm not necessarily a believer in that, because yes, while there's all of this documented history over there, there is equally as much history that happened here in the Americas, that happened here on the land, undocumented, that we have no idea of, civilizations and cultures that were completely, I mean, just like there was about a year or so ago, they did a study on some of the pyramids down in the rainforest, and it's like, oh, these are actually 5,000 years older than we thought. What happened here? They just they found them themselves. So it's one of those things of, there is an immense amount of history that is here that's just not known about. So while yes, you are completely right, it would be amazing to go to Normandy Beach or something and deal with the history of that, or go to one of these old castles or structures. there's a history everywhere, and that's why a lot of people think, oh, I'm in a new built house. Why do I have ghosts? How long has that land been there? Go ahead and think about that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess I think about more just as far as more mass population, that, you know, we've only been a country for a much shorter time than, say, England, or, you know, but we actually don't know how long the States have been inhabited either. There could have been other, you know, other races here, other, you know, histories that have been completely wiped out. In fact, that lost civilization theory is really starting to take off now, as they're discovering more and more. Now they think that the Egyptians inherited the pyramids, that they've been around for way longer than we thought. And, you know, we just found out there's stuff under them, and how did we not know that before? It's like, it's amazing the stuff that we're starting to uncover now. So yeah, you're absolutely right. One of the last couple of questions I had is, I'm wondering how this is a weird question, I know, but you mentioned the cross-dressing ghost. How does clothing work? So is it, I think about that old picture from the church of that ghost that's standing by the altar that supposedly no one's been able to debunk by this point. And it looks like it's wearing a mask. I mean, you know, it looks like a pillow sheet, or like a pillowcase, and it's got the hollowed out eyes and stuff. Very much looks fake, but they can't prove it. But that makes me wonder, do we know how that works?
The closest way I could say to it, because I mean, obviously we can't shift our form like they can. Mm-hmm. It's almost one of those things of, if you were to close your eyes right now and imagine yourself dressed a certain way, that's almost how it works for them. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it, perception and intention wise. But I think their form overall can shift a lot, very drastically. But a lot of it, like we had said earlier, they are very caught in those ego situations where, okay, this was my last life that I lived. And this is who I was. This was my identity. So they perceive themselves that way so strongly that that's how they appear.
Well, like, for instance, he mentioned earlier a case that we had done where one perceived himself as a monster. And when we saw him, he actually presented like you would think of Frankenstein.
Like he was cut up.
Because his perception of himself at that point was, I've been bad. This is what I am. In truth, he was a male human spirit. But he had gotten to a point where that's how he saw himself. So that's what he showed, if you will, whether subconsciously or consciously, but that's how it became. Yeah. We've also run into cases where, you know, we have research on the house, and maybe the spirit there is a previous homeowner who died at, you know, say 85 years old. And we will run into this person and they'll identify by the name, but to us, they look more like they're 45 or something, because some people seem to present as when they felt good and healthy, or at their best, or at their peak. And it's different across the board for all of them. So, you know, we always have to kind of weigh those things. And that's where the research and the back end of it really comes into things to verify for sure what we're dealing with.
Well, it's good to know that our self-esteem issues don't end. They just keep well after we do. Okay, so this is going to be a very odd question, and I don't want to offend anybody by asking this question. I don't want to put anything weird or sound like I'm demeaning what you do at all, because I'm really genuinely curious about this as a possibility, because I don't know that you would be able to necessarily know one way or another. But what if these entities that you guys are experiencing, and I'm talking not the inhuman ones, because that actually could be what I'm talking about, but even the human ones, or what we think are human, long introduction to this question. What if it's another race of beings, another race that's just an energetic that's presenting themselves as something that we would be able to identify? Does that make sense?
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have run across things like that.
Oh.
I guess you would say alien beings. however you want to label that.
There are the entities, the quote unquote inhumans in which we run across where they have only ever taken a spiritual form.
Right.
But there are inhuman entities that we have that have had physical. We ran across an entity that claimed he was from another planet and that his planet collided with another one and wiped out their entire race.
Yeah.
And he just found himself here by happenstance, just over the thousands of years of just traveling through the immaterium, and just worked his way here.
Wow. That's really mind-blowing when you think about it. You know, it's we have so much to deal with already, and to think about a way to communicate, you know, even just to be able to have a conversation with something that didn't originate here, or maybe doesn't understand our language or our objects or our movements or intentions. That's like a whole nother level, isn't it?
There are the entities that are like that, where there is a very, very vast communication problem where it besides just like physical indication, where getting across to them is very difficult, and in meditation we have to use guides or other methods to actually interface with them. The thing is too that we have run across with a lot of those inhuman spirits that may or may not have ever taken physical form. For whatever reason or another, they seem to have a far better grasp of being able to interact. And while they may not speak the language, or their name may not be something that we could speak through our tongue, where they can kind of almost telepathically be like, this is my name type thing. And you're not actually, it's a different type of perception.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, I admire so much the resolve and the strength that you guys have, the work that you put into it, and you've helped a ton of people already, and I know that you'll continue to do that, and I cannot thank you enough, because I can't imagine, just even with the little bit of experiences that I've had in places that I've lived, and we talked about the full body apparition that I saw, and you know, the stuff that continues to go on where I live with my bed shaking and my chair shaking, and that I can't imagine what some of these people have dealt with, and for you to be able to help them, that's such a huge gift. So thank you for doing what you guys do, because there's not a lot of people that could do it.
Thank you for the support and all of the support you've given us over this past year. We greatly appreciate all of it.
Thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys for coming out. Folks, check out their YouTube channel. Chris has a couple of really cool, what would be the proper word, Chris? Do you want to call them soundscapes? Do you want to call them songs? How do you kind of define what you're doing?
Compositions.
There you go. Yeah.
They're great moods. I love the just listening to them. I'm like, this puts me in such an interesting kind of peaceful place, because I love those kind of sounds. But I really enjoy
we got two more. We got 3 and 4, but she's busy.
I need to get them out. So yeah, we're working on that.
He's got some sounds for you.
I got 2 more sounds for you.
Nice. Well, we'll make sure that you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then hit that little bell so that you'll get notified when new videos come out. Obviously, when the season comes out next fall, hopefully, then you'll have a bunch of notifications. But in the meantime, you guys may upload little bits and pieces here to keep people engaged, which is always a good idea. And I look forward to that. The interviews and stuff that you guys have done already have been very insightful. You're also well-spoken. You all interview very well. And it's just a pleasure to talk to you and to get to learn about this insane stuff that you guys deal with, because I think there's a growing curiosity. I think as time there's always been a curiosity for, you know, things that we don't see or can't understand. But I think in recent years, and maybe it's the Hollywood influence that's gotten more people interested in it, but it seems like it's a growing number of people that are wanting to know and wanting to learn, and a little more willing to accept possibility instead of just rejecting it and saying you're crazy if you're saying this is happening to you.
I think there's 2 main schools of thought with that. When it comes to, there are the people that are very just physical world, money, power focused. But I think a lot of that too is because social media kind of created that, I think, or facilitated it and split the two groups. There is another group that now that we are more, a lot of people are feeling very isolated these days. That lends itself towards more of that introspective look where they're wanting to, I want to learn more about myself. I want to learn more about the world, because they are getting all of this information. It's, hey, now I have something new to be interested in that I never thought of, or hey, this relates to something, like we were talking about the pyramids and civilizations earlier. All of these things kind of blend and work its way together. So people are constantly finding out, hey, I might not be alone with this issue, or I'm very interested in this, like Chris not knowing he was interested in editing until he picks it up, and then he's like, okay, now I'm like addicted to it. It's been an incredible boom, and seeing people drift towards new horizons, and that I think that kind of plays a large part in it.
Yeah, I think and I think people got really curious about a lot of things during COVID too, because there was just that opportunity. Exactly. Yeah. Chris, if you have a link to your band, please send that to me, and I will add that to the show notes as well, so that people can check that out. And I'd like to check it out as well. Thank you guys so much for all you do, for coming back on the show. I hope you'll come back again. Amy Lee, I got through the entire podcast without saying the word. I'm very proud of myself, because I almost brought it up at one point. So I think you might be okay with me this time. But thank you guys for continuing to do what you do. You really make a difference in a world that people can find terrifying and don't understand. And there's not a lot of people, I think, that have the resolve or the strength or determination like you guys do. So you're very special people to do what you do. And thank you very much.
Well, and as you're saying that, of course, I have to plug it. We are looking for a couple more members. So anybody who watched this, maybe go watch more of our other stuff to get more of an even in-depth look. And if you happen to be in the greater Northwest Houston area after watching all of that and you still are interested, then give me a text. We'll talk about it.
Definitely do that. It's going to be a challenge, obviously, to find people that can roll with you guys. I mean, it's always tough to join a tight-knit group already. That's already kind of something that you're walking into, but that can be overcome. Finding somebody that has the strength to be able to stand there and have the resilience to deal with it for 6 hours or whatever it might need to be, and be strong, that's going to be the hard part. But they're out there. You'll find them for sure. Thank you guys very much. Thank you guys. Go ahead.
Thank you.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening. I hope that you'll join us for all the Christmas stuff that we have coming up. It's funny, I do absolutely nothing to celebrate Christmas, but I love the season. Just, all the fun Christmas stuff that's around, and the music and everything. So check out the shows with Mark Roback this weekend. Check out a brand new review of my Christmas album coming to you on Christmas Day, and then the normal Wednesday episode, and then all kinds of stuff. New reviews from Cherry Red Records box sets coming out as well. All kinds of fun stuff. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Spring Paranormal Investigations. Check out all the links in the show notes, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.